What's going on, guys? Seth and Sarah here. We just watched the first episode of The Last of Us, the HBO series that just came out, and we're going to be reviewing this episode. We're going to be going full spoilers, so if you have not watched this, I would say watch it and come back and join us for this conversation. Like I said, we're going full spoilers, so be prepared for that. So, quick recap. This is essentially the introduction to The Last of Us, the world, the characters, how people got to where they are. And it follows the game pretty closely, but changes some things up as well. In case you guys are curious about maybe if we're coming from playing the game or not, I've beaten the original Last of Us probably 7 or 8 times, so I'm definitely a fan of it. And you have played some of the beginning of the original Last of Us, so you're kind of going into this not knowing a whole lot about the story of The Last of Us.
Yeah, this episode goes past
what you got to.
What I've played.
So you've pretty much not played the game. Yeah. You just kind of looked at it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're coming from the perspective of somebody without having played the game a whole lot and somebody who's played the game quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to kind of hear our perspectives on that, I think, at the very least. We start off the episode with, in the 60s, which I thought was an interesting start, talking about viruses and how fungi is more scary because there's no way to cure that, kind of alluding to where we're going with the infection that is in The Last of Us. Then we are launched to 2003, seeing Joel's life back before everything happens with his daughter Sarah. And he's living a pretty normal life. We're getting these little hints everywhere of there's something going on around the world. And it slowly leads up to a situation where people are infected with something. And everyone's going kind of crazy. Joel and his daughter Sarah and his brother Tommy try to escape their town and end up meeting a pretty bad fate in which Joel loses his daughter Sarah to a government soldier, just a soldier, an army guy, shoots them both. Sarah dies, and then we are launched yet again 20 years into the future in Boston, where we see a scene where a kid wanders to this kind of walled-in town where people are living and is apprehended. They test this kid who ends up being infected, and they put medicine in the kid's arm. And later we find Joel, 20 years older, working, and part of the job he's working on at this time is disposing of bodies. People are throwing bodies in fires. And one of the bodies that they throw in there happens to be the kid that we saw a second ago. So we're kind of brought to this pretty grim and dire world that Joel is existing in 20 years after the incident of losing his daughter. We are introduced to Tess, who is Joel's partner in many ways. She was trying to... she's talking about this guy, Robert, who essentially sold her a battery that he sold to somebody else and then spent the money that she gave him on something. And a lot of underground dealings there. Things didn't go well. They're kind of afraid in the situation. She's trying to get out of it, but they're afraid that Joel might catch wind of what happened and do something about it. So we're kind of getting a sense of there is Joel has a reputation, I guess, that people are afraid of. Then we're kind of introduced to there is something called the Fireflies. People are calling them terrorists. An explosion happens. Tess is getting out of the situation with Robert, and she runs into some of the Fedra agents that are trying to combat this terrorist organization called the Fireflies, and she gets arrested. Then, we get a little glimpse into Joel's life. He's not doing well. The world kind of sucks. He's self-medicating, drinking, taking pills, passing out, doing that kind of thing. Also in a scene, he's trying to get in contact with his brother Tommy, who hasn't been heard of in 3 weeks. And he's deciding to go find him, in which he needs a car battery and a truck to do that. Yeah. Then we get some scenes with we're introduced to Ellie. She's calling herself Veronica, I think, which is kind of weird. And yeah, she's captured. She's trying to figure out why she's captured. I pretty much knew as soon as they start talking because I played the game. But that's something I got to be kind of careful of here too. Is when I'm talking about this episode, I got to talk about what they showed in the episode and not what I know will be coming. It's going to be kind of tricky, but. Yeah, long story short, though, Marlene, we're introduced to Marlene, who is the leader of the Fireflies in this area, and she has Ellie captured. There's something special about Ellie, and they're trying to transport her somewhere. Yeah, so then after that, Tess and Joel decide that they're going to get some revenge. They're going to right some wrongs with the deal that went on with Robert, and they're going to go pursue him. So they go to do that. They end up meeting up with Marlene. They didn't know they're going to do this, but Marlene is the person that Robert sold the battery to in the exchange on this, and that deal went south as well, which Marlene got shot in a firefight. And yeah, so they're talking with Joel and Tess about the situation really quickly. It comes down to a point where they offer to give Joel and Tess everything that they need to go find Tommy if they deliver Ellie to Fireflies at the, I think it's like a Capitol building, state building, something like that. And they, after a discussion, agree to do it. Reluctantly, they don't want to do it, but they're going to do it because they need the gear. And yeah, so they take Ellie, they set out to leave the walls of the safety of the city, something Ellie's never done, and Tess and Joel have done because they've done smuggling in the past. So they know routes and how to get out and stuff like that. They end up leaving the city at night to get Ellie to where she needs to go. And they run into a soldier who is just out there pissing in the dark for some reason. And the guy tries to apprehend them. He starts testing them. Of course, Joel and Tess come out negative when it comes to being infected. But then after Joel beats the shit out of the soldier, they find out that Ellie is indeed infected, in which she tries to explain that she's been infected for a while now, and she should have turned already. And they don't really have time to process what's going on there. So they have to keep moving because the soldiers are going to show up any minute. And they head forward to the city, in which we are left with the end of the episode, showing a very iconic building that slammed into another building from the game. And a Depeche Mode song, one of my favorite Depeche Mode songs. So that was a nice little treat into the credits. So yeah, a lot happened in this episode. It was an hour and a half, big introduction episode. I don't know if every episode is going to be an hour and a half. I doubt that. But this one was, and I think it was handled well because they had a lot to pack into one episode to kind of give us an introduction and send us on the journey, which is The Last of Us. Let's start out with you, though, with your impressions of this, going into it without really knowing where the story is going to go, but having a little bit of a knowledge of characters from the game. What'd you think of the episode?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought they, looking at it from just like a episode of a TV show that's starting, I thought that it was well done. The pacing was good. I thought they did a good job in the beginning of setting up like the story with Joel and Sarah. It was kind of quick, I guess, in terms of like the full scope of the show, but I think they did a really good job with kind of introducing you to Joel and developing this relationship in like the little amount of time that they had. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really well done. And all the events from that sort of time in his life felt really impactful when you were watching it. So that's good. Obviously, that's what they're going for.
Yeah, one thing in the game, I'm not going to try to talk about the game too much, but it's kind of hard because this is directly based off of a game. Yeah. Is the beginning of the game when it shows Joel and Sarah, it is able to establish a relationship between those two characters that makes you care for Sarah pretty quickly, which is really good writing to be able to do that. I think the show was able to do that as well. I mean, now Neil Druckmann, co-writer of the original Last of Us, and then had a huge hands-on part of this show. I think, that's probably one of the reasons why they're able to achieve that so well. But I'm glad that it is crucial for you to care about Sarah when Sarah dies, and did not have a whole lot of time to do that. And I think the show was able to do that, which was very important, because you have to feel for that to understand a lot of who Joel is and why he's the way he is.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit, I guess, at least from my perspective, it seems like it'd be a little bit easier to achieve that, like in a game, because you're playing the character, like you're there in the story. It's a little bit more immersive, I guess. But maybe that's different, if you're not like somebody who plays games. But I think that sort of medium makes it a little bit easier to get you attached to characters. So I think that they did it so well, and the show was good. Yeah, I mean, I think overall the show was really good. It's hard because I haven't played the game, but I also the game's been out for so long, everybody loves it. I kind of know what like the main beats of the story are. So be interesting to kind of hear even like the perspective of somebody who is just like watching an HBO show,
Yeah, it's what I'm really curious about, because when we start watching it, I know where things going, even though, to the show's credit, it does a lot of things that are exactly from the game, which I appreciated as a fan of the game, but it also did a lot of things different, but in a responsible way. That for a split second, I was almost like, man, what would it be like to watch this without ever having played that game? That would have been a really interesting experience, because the beginning has this like slow tension that's building, and if you don't know what you're getting into, it would have been a really interesting experience. But I already kind of know. But they did change it up, because in the game, when you play as Sarah and she wakes up, you're just in your house, and then there's some dude in like your backyard and trying to break in, and then Joel shows up. And in this, she goes over to the neighbor's house, and it's a completely different experience. So it was a pretty cool difference that, as somebody who, I know what's going to happen, I got something different, and it was kind of fun. But yeah, I kind of envy somebody who got to watch this without knowing what's coming and get to fully experience it. Because like I said, I've beaten this game so many times, like I just know what's coming. But yeah.
Yeah, I think from, trying to get you connected to Sarah, just watching her, I think it's important, that you see her developing relationships with other people, and that all sort of like ties together to the whole beginning story. I think that helps get you attached to her so quickly.
Yeah.
She has all these relationships with all these people, and you kind of see all of that start to crumble, and it helps kind of make some of those story points mean something to you. And then kind of moving on to the second half after the time jump. I think that was well done too. I think they do a good job of kind of portraying like this different life that everybody has to live now, and like, these different expectations kind of, pretty jarring, I guess, from like what normal life is or was for them. So I, even not having played the game, I think seeing Joel and Ellie played by different characters was a little bit jarring for me. But I guess that's something, they have to compete with, making a show off such kind of an iconic game. But I, regardless of that, I thought that they both did a good job. Like their acting was good, but yeah, it's, I think, gonna take maybe a couple episodes to kind of sell the Joel and Ellie thing with those those actors for me, I think.
Yeah. I agree with that I'll get into characters in a sec, but when it comes to the episode, I actually really liked it a lot. My first thought, even 20 minutes into this episode, was we have been living in a world where people do not understand how to tell a story from a video game into a movie, which has always been ridiculous to me. I've been telling people for years when people were like, "Oh, you just can't do it. You just can't do it." Like, one's an interactive medium, the other one's not. I'm like, no, but a story was written for that video game and it was adapted to the game. The story can be taken and put somewhere else. This takes all of that argument of like, you can't do it, throws it out the window because they nailed it. They did a really good job with this first episode. Hopefully the rest of the show is this good. But as a person who's played the shit out of the first game, both games, and am a huge fan, Last of Us is one of my favorite games ever made. They did a really good job. Now there is some differences for sure, and characters, we'll talk about that in a sec. But as for the episode, I think the introduction in the 60s was really cool. It was a fun little alluding thing. For me, as knowing where it's going, I'm like, oh, this is neat. But then for somebody who maybe doesn't know where it's going, they're probably like, oh, okay, like that's interesting. What's that about? And then they're gonna watch it and then go like, oh shit, that's what that was talking about.
Helps plant those ideas.
Exactly. The beginning part with Joel and Sarah, they sold it really well. I kind of already said that before, but it's very important that they did that, and they did it very well. I think Pedro Pascal and what's her name, Nico Parker, did a really good job. They had really good chemistry as father and daughter, and they had a good relationship. And it was tragic when she died. She did a really good job at acting when she died. It was disturbing and awful, and it's supposed to be, and they nailed it. So that was really good. Also, Gabriel Luna playing Tommy. Here's the thing, like, he doesn't look like Tommy from the game. Nico Parker doesn't look like Sarah from the game. Pedro Pascal doesn't look like Joel from the game. But they're all playing their versions of these characters, and I think they're doing a good job at it. So no complaints there. He did a really good Tommy. He did a really good job on Tommy. And we only got him for a short amount of time, as we should at this point in the story. But I think he did a really good job as well. And one of the big things I really appreciate about this beginning part of the episode is there are parts that are completely different. There's parts that are more fleshed out than the game, which I really appreciated. Like the whole sequence with Sarah going and getting the watch fixed. And the tension that's building as the environment around her is getting a little more like, what the fuck's going on? The chick in the store is like, you got to get out of here, go home, blah, blah, blah. It had a really good pacing, which I really dug. But then there's like scene for scene stuff as well that I really appreciated. Like when they got in the truck, the camera's inside the truck, just like in the game when you can freely look around. They did that really well. There was parts that they said, verbatim what was happening, like the house on fire. Oh, that's blah, blah, blah's house. When they're discussing, what if we're infected, stuff like that. Just like the game, they nailed it. Is really good, but then they changed things up, like when she went over to the neighbor's house, really creepy how, like, in the game they don't have the little things out of their mouth, but in this they do. I liked it. They don't need to change that in the game, but what they're doing here, I like what they're doing. It's fun, it's interesting, it's different, it's disturbing. And one scene I really loved that's not, of course, in the game, is the old lady when she was looking through the stuff in the background. She was like acting weird and shit.
Oh yeah.
When I saw that, I'm like, man, if I didn't know what was coming, that'd be so crazy to, like, it was crazy for me to see, but just that weird like hint, like, what the fuck's up with her? What's she doing?
Well, when she was in class, the like light shining on her face, it was because one of her classmates' like hand was twitching.
Yeah.
Which was so much more subtle than the old lady scene.
Yeah, there's
but,
this progressive.
It makes you think back on it.
Yeah. There's this growth of, like, just things are getting a little more weird.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job with that pacing. I really liked it. It felt like a horror movie, which I liked. Because The Last of Us is, it's a scary situation, but they really leaned into the horror in the beginning, which I really enjoyed. And then, them trying to escape, trying to figure out where to go, driving through the field, going through the town. There's people running around. It felt immersive, really intense, really enjoyed it. And that, I think they nailed it. They did a great job. Sarah getting killed was awful. Like I said before, it's effective. It's how it should be. And I would love to see some people who have never played the games reactions to that scene because they don't know that was coming, and that would have been very interesting. Yeah, so the 20 years later, set design was really good. It looks like a old decrepit city that's just kind of held together by not a whole lot, walled in. This is all they got. They got to keep things running. We get a sense of that when the kid shows up. They got the procedure. They tie the kid up. They can't take chances, and then they don't take chances when the kid is infected, and they just kill the kid. Pretty dark, especially the soldier chick who's like talking to the kid. She sells the comfort to the kid very well. It's disturbingly well.
Yeah,
she's talking about how like, oh, we'll give you toys, we're gonna feed you whatever the hell you want. When she said that, I'm like, you don't have anything that kid wants.
Yeah. I thought she did a really good job. She did a good job of like balancing, like she's selling that to the kid, but you can also see that like it's like impacting her in a way that you would expect it to.
But they've done
impact
this
you.
before.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like routine. It's natural. Like if they're infected, we have to get rid of them.
Right. It's like a good balance of like she's not taking it lightly, but like there's no question that like this is
the
what
kid's infected.
they have to do, and this is what they've done. This is what they've been doing.
Yeah, it's a liability. It has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple things real quick. The person playing Tess, Anna Torv, doesn't look like Tess, but she sells Tess. She's got the same demeanor to her, which I really appreciated. Tess is kind of hard to nail because she's like this tough, crime underground kind of character, but she's not overly tough to the point where she's ridiculous. And I think this Anna Torv did a really good job at portraying that as well. There's a really fine line to nail that, and I think she did it. So that's impressive. Really happy with her. The person who played Marlene, Merle Dandridge, she I guess played Marlene in the original game, and it was funny because like when she talked and I heard her, I'm like, man, she's really doing a great job of playing Marlene. And then we watched a behind the scenes thing, and she was talking about how she got to learn and know the character through the original game, and I was like, wait, she played her. That's crazy. So that's cool. She got a main role, her role in this, because we obviously know Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson couldn't play their characters if they wanted to in this. But it's cool to see some people from the game actually in the show. Just like I know Jeffrey Pierce is also going to be in this, who played Tommy. Apparently, according to this, it says he's going to play Perry. I don't know. We'll find out. So, really good performances across the board. It seems like everybody is playing their version of the characters, and I think they're doing a really good job at that. So we can argue all day about whether they look like the character or play their character exactly like the game. I don't think we're going to get that, but we're getting people who are trying to at least play the character closest to the spirit of that character, but their interpretation. We gotta look at this show as its own interpretation of that story. That's the way it should be viewed. Another thing I wanted to add real quick is it was interesting watching the scene with Tess and Robert and the way that moves forward, because in the game there's a scene where you're Joel and you're chasing after Robert through alleyways, because it's a video game. You got to get gameplay, and you're shooting a bunch of people trying to get to him until you catch up, and then you run into Marlene. And this, we don't need the gameplay. There's no gameplay involved. So the shortcut they take is that there's already a shootout implied with Marlene and Robert and all them, but we didn't see it because we don't need to, and that still links Tess and Joel with Marlene when they're trying to track him down. So you get the same outcome and the same situation, but played out differently. I think they did it smart, especially in an episodic way. Like, you got one episode to do this. We don't got a whole lot of time. I think they did it really well. So that was a really interesting difference that was effective. And then let's talk about Ellie. I know this has been a big topic for a lot of people. Bella Ramsey playing Ellie. Obviously, she does not look like Ellie, and she doesn't sound like Ellie, but she does have a similar vibe to her. But kind of something you said earlier that I was thinking when we're watching as well is I need more time with her and more lines from her to really feel it out, because we got a lot of more quiet, reserved, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you type talk from her. But we got, in this episode, she just got captured. She's being escorted by people she's just met. So, for the story, very accurate. But for us seeing Bella Ramsey as Ellie, we haven't really seen it. And we'll see it more in the next episode for sure if it follows the game, which it seems to be doing. Whereas like with Pedro Pascal, he's pretty much been he was there the whole episode. So, and my view on him is he is not Joel from the game, but he has the spirit of Joel. He has the same kind of demeanor, the same kind of troubled, I got to do what I got to do to survive kind of vibe to him. And I think Pedro Pascal is doing a great job playing his version of Joel. And so, when it comes to that conversation, that's where I'm at. I know some people are still going to be really unhappy with them. I know some people are just going to love them to death. I think they're doing a good job, but they are not those characters exactly. And I honestly don't want them to be, because it's like when you watch a play and you got different actors each time. You get something different from the new performances of the people playing the spirit of those characters, and it's the same thing. I don't want it to be exactly the same, but it's hard for me to talk about Bella Ramsey yet because we haven't got a lot from her. But the exchange with her and Joel, when she went to stab him, he threw her into the wall because he's not taking shit from anybody, even if it is a kid. Points a gun at her, and then Marlene's trying to go like, no, like point the gun at me, like don't point at her, she's too important, and then she won't reveal why she's important. That was a fun exchange because, without talking about anything in the future, Joel and Ellie have they don't know each other. They don't want to know each other. Joel definitely doesn't want to know Ellie. He doesn't want anything to do with the situation. And I think they portrayed that really well in that hallway scene. I think really quick and effective writing in that scene too, which I liked a lot too. So, what did you think of Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey as these characters?
I liked Pedro Pascal as Joel. I agree. I think that he's it's not, Joel, but it's enough Joel for me so far, at least, that I mean, like I said, I think I still need to see more from him too to really see if it feels like Joel, but at the same time, I agree that he can play his own Joel, but I think that it's going to be important as the story progresses that they kind of have a vibe, and especially a vibe with each other that matches what the vibe in the game is.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, but we got to spend more time with him, and I think that it's going in the direction it should be going in. I don't really know what to say about Bella Ramsey as Ellie, because I don't think it didn't feel like Ellie for me, but I also didn't play the game, so it's hard for me even to say for sure if I know what Ellie felt like in the game, if that makes sense. I think I acknowledge that I may have some idea of Ellie that isn't really Ellie, because I only know the story of the game from other sources, not from actually playing the game. So I'm trying not to put too much stock in that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of how I felt watching it. So
yeah, honestly, and I know some people are, very defensive of her, and a lot of people are very aggressively against her in playing Ellie. I do think if you come from the game, it is a little jarring because she's different in a lot of ways. But again, like all the other actors, I think you have to give her room to play the character the way she's going to play it. And we'll judge by the end of the season if she did a good job or not. And I do think she's playing the part just fine. She does come off a little more. They're both kids in the game and in the show, but she does come off a little more kid-like in the show. In the game, seems a little more sophisticated, but she hasn't talked a whole lot in this episode. So, but that's fine because she's a kid. The way she's dressed, similar to Ellie. She's got her knife. She has a very rebellious fuck you attitude about everything. So, she's hitting the beats. It's just we got to get used to her as that character. But I think she has the chops for it for sure. She's, without comparing her to the game, as somebody playing a character, I think she's doing fine. So
Yeah.
We just got to see more from her in the next episode, I think.
Yeah, I definitely don't think she's doing a bad job, like, generally. So, it's certainly not. I mean, I feel more than anything, it's probably nitpicky even to say anything about it, because they're both, Pedro and Bella are, like, doing a really good job. Like, they're good actors. They're clearly, like, talented.
It's also nice to see Pedro Pascal play another dad in a show, but not have a helmet on the whole time. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a big part of Mandalorian is you can't read him. You just have to take his, actions as a lot of his character. But in this, we get to actually see his face. So, and he's not just playing Mando here, which is great too. It shows that he has range. He's also really good in, Game of Thrones when he was in that. So yeah, he's doing a good job. I had no doubt though when he was cast. I was like, I can kind of see it visually, but I've been like a big, my stance has been like, I'd rather the characters be played well more than look like the character, because you can look like the character and not do the character well, and it would just ruin it. I don't care if you look like the character if you can't play him. So, and so when he was cast, I'm like, yeah, he can totally play that character for sure. Can he look like him? Maybe, but like, I think it's close enough. It's fine. I have no qualms with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the looks are less important. I mean, I don't know a lot of these characters. Like, I don't have a reference for them from the game. But I think that having the right... I think what's probably going to be most important, from my point of view, is probably how the relationship develops between the two of them.
Yeah, that's going to have to get sold to us well, and I think they'll be able to do it. I mean, he's already done this with Grogu, so I think he'll be able to do it just fine.
Yeah.
But Bella Ramsey, I'm sure he'll do fine as well. So
she's not as cute as Grogu, though.
That is true. That is very, very true. But yeah, overall, I think it was a great first episode of the show. I am really happy with somebody finally making... There's already been some good video game movies for sure. I'm not saying that those don't exist. I mean, I like the Silent Hill movie, and it's definitely got some weak points in it, but I liked it. And there's other examples of good video game adaptations out there, but this is just kind of like solidifying that it can be done. It can be done very well. This sells the story through this medium perfectly. And I'm excited for new audiences to get to experience The Last of Us. I've been seeing people on the internet who are like talking up like, oh my God, I love The Last of Us. It's so great. Is the game good? It's like, yeah, dude, it's really good. And so that's really cool. They nailed it. They did a good job. I'm glad that they got, oh God, what's his name? Craig Mazin? I don't remember. Dude from, did he do Chernobyl? I think he did. And Neil Druckmann working on this. Great pair up. I think they did a great job. And
Yeah.
I'm really stoked to see the next episode. One thing, if you guys have been following Tasty Flicks, our anime reviews, we've been watching Nier. And the second episode kind of changed things up a bit. But the first episode was like verbatim the beginning of Nier Automata. And though I like seeing that in anime form, I wasn't like stimulated watching it. I wasn't excited or stoked. I was like, oh, that's cool they did this, and that's about it. That this changed up enough things that it felt like a new experience with all these people playing these characters in a different way. Felt fresh. It was good for somebody who's played the game too many times to enjoy. I can only imagine people who haven't played the game enjoyed it as well. So I'm really stoked about what they accomplished here.
Yeah, it felt to me, especially, the parts where I did have a reference from the game, that they really understand what aspects they need to change and like where they need to add a little bit or take a little bit away to sell the same story in this different format. So that's nice to see.
Well, yeah, it seems like people who played the game and actually understood the game, Neil Druckmann, of course, is co-creator of it, but people who played the game actually made this, but you have some creative minds in there as well who have experience in the TV and movie realm that were able to enhance the experience and change things up in a way that is exciting for people watching. And so, yeah, that pair up, I think, accomplished a lot with this episode.
Yeah.
I think satisfies both OG fans and hopefully new fans at this point. So I'm really excited for episode 2. I'm curious to see how they do. I can only assume the events that are going to happen in it and where they. I was wondering where this episode was going to leave off, and I thought it was kind of weird how like it just showed them run off, and then it showed Depeche Mode start up, and then the buildings. But with the buildings, I know where it's going, know what's going to happen. So I'm curious. I have a feeling. where it's going to end, but we will find out when it comes out. You have anything else you want to say on this episode?
I don't think so.
You liked it?
I did.
You excited for episode 2?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to watch that, and we will review that as well. But let us know in the comments what you guys think of the first episode of The Last of Us, the HBO series. Did it satisfy you? Did it not? Are you coming to this from the games? Have you played those? Did you beat them? Are you a big fan of those? Are you not a big fan of those? Are you coming to this having never played the video game? Are you brand new to this? And what'd you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? If you didn't like it, why didn't you like it? Let's talk about it. And if you liked it, tell me why you liked it. What do you think about the changes? What did you notice? The whole thing with Tommy's really interesting, being a motivator for the story moving forward. And just let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. What'd you think of Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey? I want to know now that we've finally seen the episode. What do you guys think about it? Because I know a lot of people were having a lot of discussions about that before the show, but now we've seen it. So let us know in the comments below. And yeah, I've been Seth. This has been Sarah. Till next episode. We'll talk to you guys later.